You're brave is the commonest response when you tell people at parties that you're a teacher. Oh, I couldn't do that, comes a close second. And third, is that what you've always wanted to do? A thinly veiled attempt to ascertain what career you might have failed at previously to mean you ended up with this fate worse than death job. The public, by and large, speak to teachers in the same way they might address a despondent child who's just missed a shot at goal in an important football match. They search for words to put a positive spin on the situation, try to ignore the lingering sense of what might have been had the opportunity for success not been missed, and can't help but feel desperately sorry that things didn't work out for you. It took me a while to get my head around that attitude, because I'd always viewed teaching as the most desirable job in the world. While my classmates got Transformer figures or Barbies for their 8th birthdays, I got a full-sized blackboard and a box of chalk. I spent hour after countless hour teaching imaginary figures the capital C's of the world or how to calculate the area of a rectangle. I created meticulous worksheets called registers of names I'd made up myself and thought an ideal evening was marking imaginary work and giving encouraging feedback to non-existent pupils. Unsurprisingly, nobody ever accused me of being a cool kid. It was rather an odd passion, but perhaps it was in the blood. My dad taught music all his working life, and I loved watching him head out to school with his briefcase stuffed with exam papers and return with stories of staff room gossip and choirs that struggled to hold a note. I was lucky to have some larger-than-life primary school teachers, and their influence undoubtedly extended beyond the classroom walls. As far as I was concerned, they were all-knowing figures, and I longed to emulate them. But whatever the source of this enthusiasm, from as early as I can remember, I was convinced that everyone must surely aspire to teach. I remember being genuinely perplexed as it slowly dawned on me that my classmates were not clamouring to forge a similar path. Throughout a volley of careers interviews in secondary school and university, I remained stubbornly fixated. Many teachers told me that I should consider any other career path. The pay is terrible, they would say, or you should aim higher. But nothing would deter me. In fact, being taught by superb teachers at secondary school only cemented my ambition. I remember long summer afternoons in a balmy classroom with Mrs. Webb teaching us Macbeth. Mrs. Webb was statuesque and wore smart, flowing dresses. She was quietly spoken and gave the air of gliding around the classroom as she mused on the folly of unchecked ambition or whether it was fair to blame the witches for Macbeth's demise. Many an inexperienced, mischievous, or lazy student thought that her slightly ephemeral nature meant that she was a pushover. I remember one boy recounting an elaborate excuse about why he couldn't hand in his homework, which involved his sister's boyfriend's rabbit. With her voice barely above a whisper, Mrs. Webb told him that she would expect the work to be on her desk before 9 a.m. tomorrow. Foolishly, he opened his mouth to protest, but got no words out before he was comprehensively shut down by a conversation ending, "Tomorrow, please," as she drifted out the door. She was also generous with praise, though, and I found myself trying harder and harder to impress her. Somehow, even when she was criticising your work, you knew she was doing it because she wanted you to be better and believed that you were. It was on one of those afternoons in Mrs. Webb's company that I refined my career plan and decided that I wanted to spend my life teaching English in secondary schools, just like her. When those phantom children of my home classroom became real ones, as I took up my first teaching post at the grand old age of 22, nothing really threatened to remove teaching from the pedestal upon which I had placed it. Admittedly, marking work that contained actual writing took a little longer and was not always the recreational activity I would have chosen to fill my evenings, and real children tended to be slightly less compliant than invented ones. But this was still the pinnacle of everything I'd hoped for from the working world. This was a job that was noble and challenging, varied and fulfilling. And working with young people whose minds were still being formed, who were unpredictable and curious and lively, and who always told you exactly what they thought, was the most ridiculous fun.